Hello everyone, it's Jill the Wandering Stamper. I am probably a little disheveled. My hair is probably a little crazy from wearing hats all day, but we have been out at Sylvan Lake in Custer, South Dakota, having picnics and hiking and hanging out with the grandkids on the lake. It's been a lot of fun, and I wanted to take a few minutes to get this video out for you because we are going to Badlands National Park next, and that is out in the middle of nowhere. So I wanted to make sure to take a few moments to show you how to make this cute bendy card. I love this card design. It's super simple. It folds flat and then pops out when you want to display it. So it's a great card to give to someone you care about, and it's a lot of fun when you have animal stamps or whimsical stamps to make a little scene for. So I'm going to take a few minutes to flip the camera down and we'll get started, and I'll show you how to make this card. Okay, this card is so cute. As you can see, it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it folds flat, so it slides into the envelope just like this. And when you set it up, it sits up perfectly. It's a simple card, but it has a little bit of a wow factor to it because of the way it stands. So it's not your typical folded card. And it is called a bendy card, a bendy fun fold. So I'm going to show you how to make it. I am playing with the Happy Hedgehogs stamp set. I love the stamp set so much. It's so cute. I love hedgehogs. It's a lot of fun to create a scene, and you really don't need a lot with it. It doesn't come with dies, but you don't need them because they're super easy to cut out. I have mine all placed ahead of time on my blocks, and anything I have extra that I need to move to a block, I use one of my big blocks and just stick them there so they're all kind of corralled in one place. So that's a little tip for you when you have stamps that aren't on blocks yet but you plan to use them for a card. Just put them on your large clear block so you have everything out and ready to go. So I'm going to move these a little bit out of the way for you so we have a little bit more room for our cutting pad. All right, so we are going to get our cutting mat out. I have my cutting blade and my scoring blade here ready to go. And I am using the Glorious Gingham Designer Series paper. I love this paper. It's got a large gingham pattern and a small gingham pattern on each side. So there's the large one, there's the small one. And it comes in several colors. It comes in Berry Burst, Blueberry Bushel, Lemon Lime Twist, Pecan Pie, and Pretty Peacock. So super pretty. I love the bright vivid colors. So we're gonna play with this. And I decided to match up the Pecan Pie. I just feel like it kind of gives it that fun little country look. So, and we are using the little hedgehogs. So I thought this looked really pretty. So I'm gonna play with this. So you need your cardstock, your Designer Series paper, use whatever you want, and some Whisper White cardstock as well. That's all you need, pretty easy. So the first thing we're gonna do is our card base is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have a scrap here, so I'm just gonna use that. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/4. One of these days I'm gonna be in civilization again and order a new trimming blade. I really need to do that. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's just a quarter sheet of paper. So I'm going to set that aside. And then our Designer Series paper, which I'm using the Berry Burst, and that's going to be 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just going down a 1/4 inch. So, and when you're using the 6 by 6 cardstock, you actually are going to use this, so that's great. 4 by 5 1/4, because we're going down a 1/4 inch, and that's so it can layer nicely behind the pecan pie like that. So then we're going to take this 6-inch scrap that we have and we're going to cut that to 1 inch. So it's going to be 1 by 6. So you could actually make 2 cards because there's the other 1-inch piece. I like to keep all my big scraps in the package so that next time I make a card and I need scraps, I have all the scraps for that pack. So I put that there. So we're going to set that aside. And then our center panel is going to be Whisper White because we're going to be stamping on it, and it's going to be 5 by 3 1/4. So I think I'm going to do 3 1/4 this way by 5 inches. Like that. And then this could actually be used, I may make it a little skinnier, but if you want to put a message on the front of this panel, we can cut this a little smaller and use this. So I'm going to set these scraps aside and see what I want to do with them later. So this is our base. This is the background for our base. This is where we're going to be putting our stamping. And then this piece is going to go on the front. And you could make it here, or you could make it this way. I think I'm going to use the bigger side. So once we have this piece cut, I'm going to go ahead and glue it. Now you want to glue this, we're going to score this, but you want to glue this on first. So, because if you don't, it's not going to score correctly. So I'm using some Tombow, and I'm going to put it down on the back. Just give it a good little layer. My grandkids are out having a walk with Pop, eating popsicles that I made. I've been making pudding pops for them. I haven't had pudding pops since I was a kid. They love them. So right now we have banana cream, and I made some pistachio because that's my favorite, and I call it monster popsicles because they don't know what pistachio is, and they love taking walks down to the campground playground with their popsicles. So that's what they're off doing with Pop while we're having this video made. Okay, so now that we have this glued down, I give it a moment to dry, and then we're going to score it in half. So we're going to flip it over to the back, and we're going to score it to 2 3/4, which is half. Okay? So when you get that scored in half, then when you're going to fold it forward like this. Okay? Easy peasy. And you don't even have to make it a really crisp fold, it just has to be able to stand up. So we're going to set that piece aside. And now on our white piece, we're only going to score the edges. We don't want to score down the middle because we have to stamp on it. And if you try to stamp on it after you score, it's going to make the stamp look weird. So you want to just score the edges, and these are going to be scored at a 1/2 inch. So I'm putting it on my 1/2 inch line here, and I'm going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to flip it around and score it at a 1/2 inch again. And then after we do our stamping and coloring, we're going to score it down the middle, but we don't want to do that until we're done coloring. So I'm going to fold these edges back, and this is what we're going to glue onto the base of this card. So you want to use your bone folder and give it a good crease so it lays flat. It just makes it easier when you go to glue it on, so it doesn't pop up on you when you're trying to get the glue down in the center. So that's done. I'm going to set that aside, and then you're going to take your what do I call this? I call this my long strip. This is the 1x6 strip that you cut from that piece of scrap, and we're going to score a 1/4 inch on each side of it. So it's just a small little score. I'm going to score a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, and it's whatever side of the paper you want to use. I'm going to use the big print instead of the small print, and then I'm just going to fold this down, and I'm going to crease it just like I did the white. Just so it's easier to glue it down, you want to make sure that your crease is good. So that is done. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to set my trimmer aside for now. So now that we have all that done, I am going to figure out where I put my scrap paper. Here it is. All right. So we're going to put this down. We're going to do some stamping. I love the hedgehogs. I I just really like hedgehogs. They're fun. These hedgehogs are extra special because it's so easy to make a little scene out of them. So I'm using Memento ink because I am going to be coloring these with the alcohol-based markers. So you always want to use Memento ink because it will not run when you color in. So I'm just inking this stamp up. This is the tree. And I am, because it's kind of taller really than I want it to be, I'm going to kind of stamp below the grass. So I think I'm going to put it about right here, and I'm just going to stamp down like that. And see, as you can see, I stamped my grass onto my scrap paper, but that's okay because it comes with a stamp that has grass. So I'm going to add some grass back in. I just didn't want my tree to be over the top of my paper. Now I have the little hedgehog. Now, if you weren't going to color him in, you could probably use him with crumb cake or whatever, but I'm going to ink him in again with the Memento ink because I am going to color him. So I'm just going to give him a good little inking. And I'm going to put him sort of looking upwards. So I'll put him about right there. He's so stinking cute. I can't stand it. Love the hedgehog. I have never seen a hedgehog in the wild. That would be kind of fun. All right, we are in the very dry climate and my cleaning pad keeps drying out on me really fast. So add a little bit more. Okay, so now I also have a greeting and I have a butterfly. But I think I want to stamp my butterfly on some scrap paper because I want to cut it out and put it somewhere else on my card. So I'm just going to stamp the butterfly. And then I think I'm going to stamp the mushroom, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do something fun with those. So I'm going to stamp my mushroom right here so he can be colored. I'm just going to fussy cut these and add those later. And then I'm going to take my greeting. I love this greeting. It says, "Finding a friend is the best discovery of all." I think that holds true throughout our lives. I meet a lot of people on the road traveling, and I have to say I've made some really fun friendships these last 3 years, traveling and meeting people that I've come across on the travels. So it's a very true statement. I'm going to stamp that on there. July 6th was our 3-year anniversary of traveling full-time. So that was kind of a big little milestone for us. It's kind of exciting. All right, and remember, I wanted to add some grass. And there's this little piece of grass that comes with that stamp set. So I'm going to stamp that, and I'm going to add it down here by the tree. And then maybe I'll put some under my little hedgehog right there, and maybe put some over here. So you just put the grass wherever you want. All right. So I think that's good for now. We're going to close up our ink, set that aside, and then I've pulled out some alcohol-based markers that I wanted to use to color. So because we're using Berry Burst paper, I'm going to color these flowers in Berry Burst. The alcohol-based markers, I love them so much. I quit buying all the other markers because I tend to only use these now. There's a brush tip on one end and sort of a pen tip on the other. I'm using the pen tip on this because these are kind of small details. So I'm just going through and coloring these in. And the great thing about the alcohol-based markers is when you buy them, they come in a set of 2. So you get a light shade and a dark shade, which is great because they shade so well. These markers are made so that the alcohol in them evaporates after you color. So it's a streak-free color. So when you, I don't know if If you've colored with regular markers, you can get streaks if you go over an area more than once. These alcohol-based markers don't do that. Because they have alcohol in them, the alcohol evaporates and it leaves you a smooth kind of image when you color it in. And then when you shade with them, you start out with the lighter shade and then color in the darker shade using the highlights that are in the image, any little highlight lines, and then you go back over it with the light, and what it does is it gives you a streak-free shading and it looks really professional. So these markers are definitely a Stampin' Up! Game changer, and it makes coloring so simple, and it makes you look like you're really good at it. So look at that. Somehow I've made a mess right there. That's okay. I notice it more than other people notice it, I think. Most of the time I point things out on my cards and people go, I didn't even see that. So I'm not gonna worry about it. So I'm just coloring in these flowers. I don't know how I did that. Probably talking too much. All right, almost done here. A lot of the time when I color, I find some later that I forgot to color in. And then for the green, I am going to use the Granny Apple Green. I just like how bright it is. You can use on this the lighter or the darker. If you're not sure, just give it a little squiggle. I'm gonna use the darker one on this one. I used the lighter one before, but I think the darker shade works just as nicely, and I'm using the pen tip, the finer tip, because again, the details are kind of small. So I'm just kind of dabbing it on there. It's really easy to color things in this way. And if you wanted to shade, you could add some other shades. You can even add other colors and have a whole new look. And of course, as you know, everything matches the paper. So I'm just pulling in colors that I'm using throughout the card so that everything is kind of uniform and put together. Do you ever get cards from people that don't really look like they match? Like, that's one of the things that gets tough when you don't have Stampin' Up! And you're using other things like maybe stuff you get in the store. Everything doesn't across the board match. So sometimes you put your card together and it just doesn't look put together really well. So that's how that happens. And I'm gonna go ahead and just dab on some color where this grass is while I have the marker out. Love these alcohol-based markers so much. Okay, that's done. And then I'm grabbing Pecan Pie, and again, there's a dark shade and a light shade. I'm gonna use the darker shade, and I'm just using the fine tip and drawing the line right where the tree branches are. Color that in. Okay. And then for the little hedgehog, I'm using the brush tip. Now my crumb cake is getting a little dry. I need to order a new one. I use it all the time. But I'm just kind of dabbing the crumb cake on here with the brush tip. Like so, getting him all colored in. I'm actually using the darker shade for him. You could also go with the lighter if you wanted to. And I actually might do that. Actually gonna grab the lighter one and color his body in. As you can see, it's getting very dry, but that's okay, it still works. And I'm gonna pull where I put the darker, pull it in, and it shadows. As you can see, kind of got rid of the line, and as it dries, it gets even better. And then I'm gonna also kind kind of go in there. And you can go over it more than once, but by doing that, it kind of just gives him a little more dimension, which I really like. So he's done. Look how cute he is. All right, so I'm gonna set him this aside and grab up this butterfly and the mushroom. See, that's where my ink came from. Somehow I managed to get ink on myself. So with this butterfly, I'm gonna do the outside of the butterfly in the berry burst, and I'm just doing the lines. Very easily. Okay. And then I have some Daffodil, I think this is Daffodil Delight. Yep. Daffodil Delight. There's dark and there's light right here. So if I'm not sure which one I want to use, I just give it a little scribble and see which one. I think I'm going to use the lighter. So I'm going to get the brush tip and I'm just going to color some of that lighter color on here. Okay. So a little butterfly. And then I think I'll give some crumb cake to the body. There we go. He's done. And then for the mushroom, I think I'm going to do the underside of the mushroom. Like that. And let's see, how do I want to do that? I think I'm going to make him pink. I like that. So I'm gonna make a pink mushroom. I have seen mushrooms literally every color of the rainbow out in nature. It's insane how many different color mushrooms are there. If you've ever been to the Pacific Northwest, wow, there's lots of mushrooms up there. All shapes and sizes, crazy. Then I'm going to go back to my crumb cake and I'm going to pull in some of that crumb cake. And then I'm going to grab my Granny Apple Green again and do some coloring where the grass is. And that's that. Super easy. And then I think since my butterfly is dry, I'm gonna make him sparkle a little with some Wink of Stella. I love Wink of Stella, I use it a lot. Just adds a little shimmer. And I think I'm gonna do it to the mushroom too, give him a little shimmer. So when people look at it, looks like it has a little glitter on it. Okay, that's done. Give that a second to dry. So now we're gonna assemble our card. All right, now that we have this colored, we're gonna pull our paper cutter back out. And we're gonna cut this in half. So this whole piece is 5 inches wide. So we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna score it at the 2.5 inch mark. Okay. So now he's scored, but the scoring line doesn't get in the way of what we colored. That's why you want to wait. And then I'm going to fold back down these two edges. All right, and put a line of Tombow. I like using, you could use adhesive. You could use tear and tape. I like the liquid adhesive because it gives me a moment to reposition if I don't like where I put it. So just put a little there. Then you're going to take your original card base and put it flat. And you're going to line up the score line. So there's a score line here and a score line here, and that's the center of your card. So you're going to kind of want to get it centered as best you can, close to the score line. And once you're happy with that, go ahead and push it down. And then give it a moment for the glue to kind of grab onto the paper and dry. Only takes a couple minutes or a couple seconds. This Tombow is pretty clear, pretty strong. So I'm gonna leave that like that, and then we're gonna take our other piece right here And we can glue it on just like this, or if we'd like, we could put a message on here, and you could keep it bigger. This is a scrap I had that was slightly bigger, or I could just cut it down just a little bit if I wanted to and make it thinner. But what I decided to do is I'm going to attach these pieces to it. So I'm going to get my Tombow out and put a little line of it on each tab. Just like we did with the other piece, we're going to line it up. It should fit the bottom of your card from end to end, like that. So you're going to line it up and just hold it for a second. And I'm going to let that dry for a second. And then I'm going to get my scissors out. And we're going to give this butterfly a little trim. And I'm going to use dimensionals to put the butterfly on there. And I just kind of cut around it, fussy cut around it, leave a little tiny bit of border. If you hold your scissors still and just move your paper, it's really easy to get those rounded lines. I'm going to do the same thing with the mushroom. And I just kind of move the paper, keep my scissors still so you don't have any sharp pieces that way. Just keep it all in one motion. Okay. So what I'd like to do is add the mushroom on the outside here and give it some dimension. And then the butterfly is going to go right on the nose of the little hedgehog. So I'm going to get my dimensionals out. I'm going to take your pick tool, and the little mini dimensionals are perfect for this little butterfly. I'm going to put 2 of them on here. And I'm going to put him right on the nose of the hedgehog. He's so cute. Now remember, we scored this, so now we can kind of fold it a little and it's going to stand up perfect. So now I can decide where I want to have my little mushroom. I think I'll put him somewhere right around here, so I'm only going to use the dimensionals on the bottom part of it. So I'll put one here, and then I think I'll put one right here, and the rest will just pop up. I think I'll put him right here. I just love dimension on my cards. There we go. Look how cute he is. Now, if you wanted to have a place to write a message, just put a piece of Whisper White on the back. I'm going to write right on this because it's not a very dark piece of cardstock, but you could add a piece of white if you wanted to on the back, or use a lighter cardstock to write on. But it is done. It's so cute. Let me show you what we've got. Get everything out of the way here. So this only took a few minutes to make. Super cute. Again, it fits in an envelope flat, and then the person who gets it just puts it up. And then this, look at this one. This is one I made out of the Zany Zoo, and I simply used the die to add a fringe at the top for the curtain. And then these 2 dies, curtain dies, come with the dies. If you buy the bundle and you get or the suite, whichever you choose, you get these dies that go with it, and the dies cut out the curtains. And then I also cut out these 2 flowers, pulled in the blueberry bushel colors, and stamped 2 of the little ballerina kitties. And then one of them I cut out using the dies, and then I attached them to the back with mini dimensionals, and I attached them right on the score line. so that it pops out. So it's super cute. The little one in the middle looks like the star of the show, and I colored them in, so I pulled all the colors together. And then I added a tag on the front and just simply made a little flag by snipping it with my scissors and stamped the saying on it. And again, you could add a piece of white to the back. It folds flat. Super, super cute. So there's our 2 cards. I will have all of the cutting dimensions and instructions on my blog, so go ahead and click on the link if you'd like to get that information. And if you enjoy these videos, I do post one at least once a week. I am a little late on one this week because we've been out in the middle of nowhere, but I do have 2 to post, this one and the one I did yesterday. So take a look at those. If you enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe to The Wandering Stamper, and I look forward to crafting with you soon. I'm Jill, The Wandering Stamper, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time.